On a fortified mountain in Italy in the last spring of the war, one American lieutenant is crawling toward a German machine gun nest, alone, and he is about to do it again and again until the mountain is his. It is April 1945. Above him sits a strong point the Germans have turned into a fortress, dug in with machine guns and observation posts and interlocking fire, and it has already torn into the American company sent to take it. Men are pinned down and dying. And instead of going to ground with them, this one officer begins to move forward, from position to position, knocking out one German gun and then crawling to the next methodically under fire, taking the fortress apart by himself. By the time the day is over, he will have destroyed around 6 enemy positions and killed roughly 9 German soldiers almost single-handedly, one of the great feats of individual courage in the entire war. And for it, his country is going to give him the wrong medal. What he did on that mountain reads like the deeds of the most famous heroes of the war. He knocked out machine gun nests one after another. He destroyed an enemy observation post. He blew open a dugout. He led his men up a slope swept by fire that should have stopped them cold. And he kept going when the odds said stop, pushing deeper into the German defenses than anyone thought possible. The kind of relentless, close-up, one-man aggression that wins the highest honors a nation can give. And then it turned desperate. The company, badly hurt, was forced to pull back off the mountain, and in the chaos his commander left the position, gone to find reinforcements, and did not come back. That left this lieutenant with a handful of survivors, holding the most exposed spot on the hill. So he did the thing that defines him. He stayed. He covered the withdrawal himself, drawing the German fire onto his own position, so the wounded and the living could get down the mountain. And only then did he come out. The next night he volunteered to lead the advance back up, guiding troops through a minefield toward the same guns. For all of it, he would be recommended not for the nation's highest award, but for a lesser one, and the reason had nothing to do with what he had done. It is worth stopping to picture the reality of it, because the plain words on a citation flatten what it actually took. A machine gun nest is a small fortress, a heavy gun, a crew, a field of fire cut, so that anyone who approaches is torn apart before they arrive. To knock one out, a man has to cross that field of fire and get close enough to kill the crew, and then survive, and then do it again at the next one, and the next, each time with the defenders now alert and hunting him. Baker did that repeatedly on an exposed mountain slope in daylight, with the enemy fully aware he was coming. Most soldiers never face a single such moment. He strung a whole day of them together and lived. His name was Vernon Baker, a second lieutenant in the 92nd Infantry Division, the Buffalo Soldiers, the segregated all-black division of the United States Army. And that word, segregated, is the whole reason his story bent the way it did. Everything here is documented in his own Medal of Honor citation in the Army's records. He had earned the Medal of Honor on that mountain as clearly as any man ever earned it. He would not receive it for 52 years. One quick thing before the rest, and then straight back to Vernon. If these forgotten stories are worth your time, a subscribe helps us find the people who'll care about them. Thank you. Now back to the medal he should have gotten, and the one he did. For what he did in Italy, Vernon Baker was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, the second highest decoration for valor in the U.S. Army. It is a high honor, and in almost any other circumstance the deeds behind it would have brought the Medal of Honor instead. But Baker was a black soldier in a segregated army, and in that army, for that war, the arithmetic was ugly and absolute. Not a single one of the more than 1 million black Americans who served in World War II received the Medal of Honor, not one. Their valor was recorded, decorated, and quietly capped below the highest rung, held back not by any question of courage, but by the color line the country had carried into the war with it. Baker's citation was, in effect, edited by prejudice, and that injustice would stand, unquestioned, for half a century. Understand what that number means. More than 1 million black Americans served in the armed forces during the Second World War. They fought in every theater, flew, sailed, drove, dug, bled, and died alongside everyone else, and many performed acts of extraordinary heroism that were witnessed, recorded, and decorated. And out of all of them, across the entire war, the number awarded the Medal of Honor was 0. That is not a statistic about courage. It is a statistic about who the country was willing to call its highest heroes. And the answer for that war in that army did not include men like Vernon Baker. His deeds went into the record honestly. The medal that should have followed them did not. And the reason was written not in the citation, but in the color line the whole country lived by. Baker came home from the war to the country he had bled for, and it was still a country that made him ride at the back, drink from the other fountain, and understand his place. He built a life anyway, quietly, carrying the knowledge of what he had done on that mountain, and the knowledge of what he had not been given for it. The decades passed. The men of his generation grew old, and the plain fact sat there in the record the whole time, unaddressed. An entire war had gone by without a single black Medal of Honor, and everyone who looked closely knew why. Finally, in the 1990s, the Army faced it. A commission study examined the records and concluded what had always been true, that racial discrimination had denied deserving black soldiers the Medal of Honor, and it identified 7 men whose awards should be raised to it. On January 13, 1997, the President of the United States presented the Medal of Honor to those 7 soldiers of the Second World War, writing 52 years late, a wrong the country had finally admitted. 6 of the 7 were dead, honored over their graves. Only one was still alive to stand in that room and receive it in person. That man was Vernon Baker. He was 77 years old, straight-backed and quiet, and he accepted the nation's highest honor with a grace that said more than any speech could. He had waited 52 years for his country to admit what he had done, and to admit why it had taken so long, and when the moment came, he did not rage. Asked about the anger of the young man he had been, he spoke plainly about doing his duty for a country that had not yet been willing to honor him, and about being now the only one left of the 7 to feel the weight of that medal in his own hand. 6 of his brothers in that honor had not lived to see it. He had, and he carried it for them too. That is the whole story, and it holds 2 truths at once. Vernon Baker's courage on that Italian mountain was never in doubt, not in 1945 and not in 1997. The only thing that ever wavered was his country's willingness to honor it, and that took 52 years to steady. He tore apart a fortress almost single-handedly, covered his men's escape with his own body as the target, and went back the next night through the mines, and he did it all for a nation that made him sit at the back of the bus when he got home. He earned the highest medal America has on that hill, and then he waited half his life for America to catch up to him. It finally did. The deeds were always there. In the end, so was the honor. And Vernon Baker, the only one of the 7 still standing, lived to see his country become, at last, a little more worthy of him.